Dear God. Hello. Good morning. Happy constitutional crisis. Malcolm Nance, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Constitutional Crisis Day.
You sound cheery. Wow. He's obviously openly tweeting this morning about firing, right? He's Trump's tweet this morning. He's quoting, who is it? Oh, Joe former DiGenova, that idiot from Fox, former U.S. attorney. The questions are an intrusion into the president's Article 2 powers under the Constitution to fire any executive branch employee. What the president was thinking is an outrageous as to the president's unfettered power to fire anybody. Malcolm, where are we? Help, mommy.
Well, I don't know what he's thinking, but if he's thinking that he's going to make another attempt at obstructing justice by firing an individual who is actually investigating what could be criminal activity, he's just throwing another giant log onto the fire of obstruction of justice. Donald Trump is really acting like the way Steve Schmidt and others have been saying, is that he's acting like a mafia boss. And he has now got it into his head through his advisors that he can do anything, that he can stand above the law, and the fastest way to get rid of this trouble is to fire everyone in charge. And that is going to bring about impeachment. He just doesn't see past his next decision.
Right. Well, I mean, clearly between these complicit House Republicans putting forward articles of impeachment for Rosenstein, and then Rosenstein drawing a line in the sand yesterday saying the Justice Department will not be intimidated. I mean, right. It feels like we're at showdown time, aren't we?
We're getting close to that, but it was only 7 members of the Freedom Caucus. Unfortunately, those 7 members will get their case heard on Fox News. Fox News will put it on Fox and Friends. And Donald Trump will assume it's his brilliant idea. And, you know, if he thinks that he's going to be able to do that, what I'm heartened by is that the Justice Department is really, as to a man, even Jeff Sessions to a certain extent, have decided they cannot violate the Constitution for an individual, and that no individual is above the law, and that they will stand. I mean, yesterday Rosenstein actually, you quoted the oath of office for all officers of the Justice Department, and it's pretty clear that that's where they're going to make their stand. And Donald Trump is putting himself diametrically opposed to the oath of office. And it's going to become, you know, I don't understand something. These are lawyers who understand the law. And it's going to become a pretty open and shut case that Donald Trump does not believe in the oath of office, and his sworn oath to protect and defend the Constitution is a joke at this point.
So, obviously, the other big story is that Mueller threatened a subpoena if he will not, the president will not agree to an interview. Legal experts are saying what now? He could, you know, try to quash the subpoena. It could go to the Supreme Court, but they're saying they would likely rule against him. Is that?
Oh, yeah. There was a really great discussion of that on Morning Joe this morning, where, you know, subpoenas have been issued before. Thomas Jefferson had a subpoena set against him. It got set aside. Bill Clinton had a subpoena set against him, and he met that subpoena by coming in and testifying. Richard Nixon was kicked out of office, resigned, before he could answer to the subpoena. So the precedent has been set. Presidents can be subpoenaed, and all that requires for them to have that subpoena set aside is compliance. Donald Trump is not the kind of person who will comply. And I think Bob Mueller was playing. He's at his level of hardball. One quick aside here, Stephanie. Did you notice that all of these activities happened in March?
Yes. Yes, I did, Malcolm.
The month that I...
Nanstradamus told us, yes.
February and March, so, you know, I'm so good for it.
Well,
but
I mean...
the very fact that he had to say to the president's lawyers, I can subpoena him to come in if you want to play this game. Mueller is out of tricks to give. I mean, he is going to play hardball. They want to play hardball with him. I think he'd do it. I think he'd bring him before the grand jury. I think Trump would not comply.
Well, Jeffrey Toobin said he thinks he would take the 5th. I mean,
You can't take the fifth in the grand jury.
Okay.
No. This isn't a regular court of law.
Okay.
I watched the D.C. grand jury there, and you can't. You got it, and you are compelled to answer questions. And he's the kind of guy who, we determined before that he has this strategy I call L4D, A, which is lie, deceive, disinform, discredit.
It is actually
arrogantly confess.
It is actually incredible to watch, isn't it? That we keep calling it stupid Watergate, but that obviously his attorney Jay Sekulow is the one that wrote these questions, right, and then leaked them, so that then Trump and his henchmen can act outraged about the leak and that that the investigation is overly broad. I mean, you were commenting on some of his tweets. You said the level of stress Trump is under is apparent here. He is caught and cornered. The desperation reeks. And then you have John Dean of Watergate fame saying this is another count of obstruction of justice if they leak these questions, right?
Yeah, they are just over the top here. We are way beyond a target being bugged, right? This guy now knows where things are coming from, and he is just cornered. And he's trying to do this sort of Mussolini, arrogant strongman routine where he's going to stand up to it. I think he's arrogant enough to accept the subpoena. I think that he's arrogant enough to when it appears that he's going to be caught, he'll go, I'll show them I'm smarter than all them. And, there's that famous line from the movie Absence of Malice where the judge comes in, he goes, you think you're pretty smart. Well, I'm pretty smart, too. And I think Robert Mueller just mumbles that to himself all day.
Yeah.
He is smart. The people around him know what they're doing. And an arrogant man coming into that environment is just going to get burned to the ground.
Yeah. Malcolm, what do you make of this? Is a really troubling story, obviously, this morning in the New York Times. The Ukraine seeking U.S. missiles halted cooperation with the Mueller investigation into Manafort, right?
I don't think, and I think that that they are playing for the White House. I wouldn't be surprised if the White House sent a message out. But I'll tell you right now, the Ukraine, anything they do that's in support of Donald Trump is in support of Russia. Let's just be honest about that. And if they think that they're playing politics, and the Qatar did the same thing, right?
Yeah.
United Arab Emirates is doing the same thing. We probably won't get anything out of them, or Saudi Arabia, because they think that they've got the strong man on their side.
Right.
All of these countries are about to get a lesson in constitutional republicanism,
right,
which is we have guardrails. We can take that person out of office. And then what's going to happen when, Donald Trump is out, Mike Pence is neutered, the Republican Party loses power? Hey, those missiles, they get allocated by Congress. And they had better pray to God that it's not a Democratic Congress. I mean, Democrats won't arm the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
So I have no idea why they're doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it literally says Ukraine officials wary of offending President Trump. They've effectively frozen Ukraine's chief prosecutor in cases that involve Manafort. In another move, seeming to hinder Mueller's investigation, they've allowed a potential witness to possible collusion between Trump campaign and Russia to leave for Russia, Konstantin Kilimnik.
Yeah.
But
I think the Mueller investigation was never going to get any of those Russian players, and I think this is where you're going to see all of that awesome U.S. intelligence, the stuff that was reported before this. Mueller has had this information for months, if not a year, on the hard intelligence that led to this investigation. It's a question of getting anything further out of it. We do not need Konstantin Kilimnik. He can be indicted. We don't need any of those players. We're never going to get them back. But you know what? Konstantin Kilimnik will not be able to go off to Monaco to spend his illicit billions of dollars if and when he's indicted and implicated in this. None of the Russians are. Natalia Veselnitskaya, she won't be able to fly into New York City, to buy her Manolos using FSB money anymore. These people will be stuck in Russia. I don't know if you know anything about Russia. Nice people at the street level, but it's sort of, it ain't the greatest place to spend the rest of your life if that's the only place you can go.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm sure your head exploded like mine did when Trump said at the rally that Putin ordered her to say she's a Russian informant to cause chaos in the United States. Wow. I mean, that is gaslighting at the highest level, I gotta say.
The thing is, you're reminding me of all these things that I thought about this week that exploded in my head.
Yeah.
And it's all turned into this like firecracker chain of explosion.
Yes.
Yeah. When I heard that, I thought, you are aware of what she was sent for.
Right.
And you're trying to address it publicly, but work it out in your mind. And she, I was the one. I was one of the people who said she was sent out to create a internal guardrail for the Kremlin with Donald Trump, to say this is a line, we've set this, and we could set this person loose at any time.
Yeah, one of right. There was a an expert on a panel that he said his sources are indicating this may be the next phase in Putin's efforts to undermine the United States by exposing his help of Trump and further delegitimizing him. I've been saying that all along, that I wondered at some point, as you wrote in your book, The Plot to Hack America. Thank you. Right. I mean, this is part of it. It's just creating chaos and undermining democracy. I mean, that's what I can't tell, where are these leaks coming from? Russia or from, right?
Well, no, I don't think a lot of them are coming from Russia. It's far better for Putin look, this is a human intelligence officer. He handled individuals as a case officer to make them compliant and to get what he wants. And by expressing, we know that there is a secret back channel to the Kremlin, which is probably legitimate, that we don't know what has been said, because how else could those 3 KG or FSB and GRU intelligence officers have just suddenly miraculously popped up in the United States without some form of communication between Putin and Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
Now, we know there's a communications pathway. Every word that Putin says has an impact on Trump one way or the other. Either Trump interprets it to be, I'm still okay with you, I don't have any problem with you, or he interprets these things to be, I think you should really temper your commentary because I can break you.
Well, and right. I mean, the expert was saying it's showing Putin may have no more use for Trump. I mean,
oh no, he's got plenty of use for Trump.
Yeah.
Just come on. I mean, all it requires is him. Look at some of the activities he's done recently. We found out the Treasury Secretary is not implementing any of the sanctions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you'll need that guy in office for that to remain.
Yeah.
And also, Donald Trump could arbitrarily just say, listen, this is all a hogwash. I'm going to prove it by making a big trip to Russia and lifting all the sanctions.
Yeah. The next headline that made Malcolm Nance's head explode: Jill Stein refuses to condemn Russian election interference in babbling CNN interview. In fact, repeating Russian talking points about yeah.
God Almighty! I have in my next book that's coming out. I'm supposed to refrain from telling you what that is. But Plot to Destroy Democracy. I have an entire chapter called which chapter is that? We have the American Beachhead and the American Fifth Column.
Yeah.
And I don't really go deeply into the progressive or the hard alt-lefters. And that's where I put these people now. They are not part of the progressive left. They are a completely different animal.
Yep.
They're so libertarian, they come back around, the Glenn Greenwalds and the Jill Stein. They come back around to the alt-right.
Yeah.
And they work in concert together. Jill Stein is a good example of a person who has been curried by the Kremlin. People in her orbit are sort of crazy to the point where they will spew those talking points. And as far as she's concerned, Hillary Clinton was the devil, and that progressives who do not side with them are the ones who are completely wrong. I had someone from their camp the other day called me a giant media-paid corporatist Democrat. I spent 35 years spying, okay, and informing people about terrorism and horrible things, and now I'm here calling out this administration, and these people have already lumped me in with Trump.
Yeah,
it's just absolutely bizarre. But I think that when this thing comes out, there are a lot more investigatory shoes to drop.
Wow. Trump has just tweeted, Malcolm. A rigged, a rigged system. They don't want to turn over documents to Congress. What are they afraid of? Why so much redacting? Why such unequal, quote-unquote, justice? At some point, I will have no choice but to use the powers granted to the presidency and get involved.
He's got no power. I mean, this guy just does not understand. The Justice Department does not work for the president. They are appointed, but they work for the people of the United States. It's like I said this once before. It's like he read all the president's men with Nixon.
Right.
He thought it was an owner's manual.
Yeah.
These things, every time he says this, he adds another count. He's going to try to create a constitutional crisis. He will lose at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
It's just that no Republican, no one on the Supreme Court is going to allow him to stop an investigation.
I mean, it feels like a powder keg. There was a piece in Politico, the reason Mueller hasn't called Ivanka yet, because they know that he will go nuclear. But, she's obviously involved. She's been at all of the, all these meetings, all this. But I think, Mueller's obviously, as you say, very smart and being very careful. But this has the feeling of it getting ready to blow, doesn't it?
If you look at Mueller's phone, right, I think speed dial number one is Southern District of New York, right? The federal attorneys at the Southern District of New York. If he ever wants to pressure Trump using Ivanka, he doesn't have to call her in at all. All of her alleged malfeasance has occurred in two places. Pre-Trump administration, they all occurred in New York City. Every one of them, right?
Yep.
Her dealings with the Russian oligarchs in Azerbaijan, and what else? Kazakhstan and all these other places. And since she has become a U.S. government employee, they're all occurring in Washington,
yep.
D.C. So
who's the next?
Both of those places.
Who's the next indictment?
No one can predict. I am part of the Rachel Maddow school of Mueller watching now, Muellerology, which is if anyone tells you they know, they're liars.
Yep.
This thing is a freewheeling party in which we could wake up tomorrow morning and find some extremely close family member of the Trump White House indicted, and no one would think twice about it.
Yep.
Until the minute it happens. You go, oh, I didn't know that, that such and such a person was really deeply involved, like Don Jr. or Eric.
Malcolm, we're way late. I hate to leave nuclear war to the end, but you tweeted Netanyahu is disingenuously giving you a very dated assessment from 2003. If we pull out of the deal now, it could can again become real with no way of stopping them.
Colin Powell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was briefed by the exact same CIA briefer who was the national intelligence briefer to the president on the Iran deal in a classified briefing. It's very simple. You pull out of the deal, they go back to their scheduled building of an atomic bomb, and they'll get it in a year. We stopped them 1 year out. We pushed them back to 15 years.
My fear is always that he's doing this on purpose as a distraction from Mueller. Yeah.
We have already been here. I have already fought this war. Netanyahu was saying the exact same thing about Saddam Hussein and urging the United States to evade Iraq in 2003, and also talking about this wonderful society that will spring up afterwards that will love Israel and the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How'd that work out for us?
Malcolm, we are so late, but I want to say goodbye like it's the last time I say goodbye to you, just in case.
I'll talk to you next week.
All right, love you. Okay. All right. Oh, he makes me feel like there might be a next week. That's sweet.